In Tuscaloosa, legacy isn't merely a concept, it's a living tradition passed down through generations. Billy Neighbors, a consensus All American under Coach Bryant in 1961, embodied the spirit by answering Bryant's call to his young linemen, stick with me, and win a national championship. Billy lived that promise, laying a foundational stone in Alabama's storied history. Years later, his son Wes would don the crimson jersey, continuing a tradition that resonated deeply. Wes walked the same halls and learned the same rigorous drills, feeling the weight of the houndstooth and the pursuit of excellence in crimson. Though he never played under Coach Bryant, he inherited the enduring culture the legendary coach had meticulously built. The opening chapter brings us face to face with Neighbors, a former Alabama center, the son of a Crimson Tide legend, and a man profoundly shaped by two towering figures, his father, Billy Neighbors, and Coach Paul Bear Bryant. This story is a compelling narrative of the legacy of Alabama football in perpetual motion.
Thank you, Rick. It's an honor and a pleasure to have with us tonight on our Crimson Chronicles podcast, Wes Neighbors. Wes was raised in Huntsville as the oldest child of Billy and Susan Neighbors. Billy, his dad, was a unanimous All-American and All-SEC lineman in 1961 for the Crimson Tide. He was the bell cow on Alabama's 61 national championship team, won the Jacobs blocking trophy in 1961, played for the Patriots in the NFL, was with the Miami Dolphins expansion team until his retirement in 1969. He was a 1983 inductee into the Alabama Sports Hall of Fame, was named a member of Alabama's All-Century team in 1992. In 2003, Billy Neighbors, Wes's dad, was inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame. Needless to say, Wes grew up around royalty. Wes finished Huntsville High School and signed with Alabama in February 1982. Due to an injury just a few days before Alabama's 1982 season started, he was redshirted. As a freshman in 1958, Wes's dad, Billy, was present for Coach Bryant's first practice at Alabama. And some 24 and a half years later, in December of 82, Wes was present for Coach Bryant's last practice at Alabama. Wes was a four-year starter at center in 83, 84, 85, and 86 under Ray Perkins. In 1986, he earned second-team All-American honors, first-team All-SEC honors, and won the Jacobs blocking trophy as the best lineman in the SEC. And unless someone can prove us wrong, this is the only instance of a father-son duo winning the award. Upon finishing Alabama, Wes played in the Japan Bowl and the Senior Bowl. In the Senior Bowl, he was one of a record 10 Alabama players in the game. Besides Wes, there was Britton Cooper, Mike Shula, Cornelius Bennett, Wayne Davis, Al Bell, Kurt Jarvis, Greg Richardson, Freddie Robinson, and Van Tiffin. Wes was drafted by the Houston Oilers in 1987 and had earned his way to second-team center status before he was sidelined with a back injury. He was traded to the Phoenix Cardinals in 1988, but had to give up football to what they diagnosed as a cracked vertebrae in his lower back. Wes returned to Huntsville, where he joined his father Billy in the wealth management business. Now, at 61 years of age, Wes is still going strong. He also owns WZZN Sports Radio 97.7 in Huntsville, where he hosts a daily sports radio show. Playing football, especially for Alabama, is a family affair for the Neighbors. His dad, Billy, his uncle Sid in the mid and late 1950s, his brother Keith in the late 80s and early 90s, his son Wesley as a defensive back for the Tide, and his son Connor as a fullback for LSU in 13 and 14, and two of his nephews, his sister Claire's two sons, Jackson, who finished 2 or 3 years ago, and Billy, who's on the team now. Wes, welcome to the Crimson Chronicles podcast.
It's good to be with you.
Hey, you're not going to remember this, but when I was doing my research for my Alabama Football Families book, I visited your house in Huntsville to interview Billy on December the 8th, 1980, almost 45 years ago. You were 16 years old, and I remember it like it was yesterday.
I wish I was still 16.
So you would have probably just finished your junior year at Huntsville High. And I was working on this family's book. I had known Charlie Thornton really well when I was at Alabama because I was sports editor of the Crimson White. I sent out letters to all these different families of Alabama football and asked them for permission to come interview him for this book I was doing. Well, Billy, being the suspicious one that he was, he'd never heard of me, had no clue who I was. He called Charlie Thornton. He said, "Who is this Tommy Ford guy wanting to come interview me?" And Charlie said, "Oh, he's okay. He's run this idea by me." Sid and Billy were in my first book in 1982 on families. And then when we did a reprint and an update in 1992, that's when I came and interviewed you for the Wes and the Keith part of the chapter. But anyway, it's great to see you. I wanted to ask you a few questions. How was it growing up in the house of Alabama great Billy Neighbors? When did you first learn to appreciate his role in Alabama football history?
He never talked about it. Never. He was just dad.
Yeah.
We would go in the locker room with Coach Bryant when I was 10. He slowly started reactions from that. It was just no big deal. He was just, first of all, he was one of the funny, I don't know if he meant to be or not, but he was one of the funniest human beings. Every day we tell stories about him to this day.
Yeah.
All his old workers come and see me, and we tell stories about him. Me and my brother work together. We tell stories about him every day. And he was a fun-loving guy and fun to be around. He would do anything for anybody. He was an amazing person. I remember like it was yesterday, after my first practice in second grade, and he was in the chair after we eat. We all sit in this little room and talk. Everybody stares at the phone now. We all eat together at the table. They move to the room and discuss what's going on. So my dad's trying to tell him, you got to remember, he's still playing for the Dolphins. And I'm showing him my stance. And he's looking at me, about to correct my stance. He said, "You need to move this. And finally I said, "That's not what my coach said." And he leaned back, put a cigar in his mouth and said, "Listen to your coach." He didn't want to watch my game.
That's amazing.
He would never say anything but good game. Now, as I got older, he would say good game. And then he'd ask me questions, why I did this or that. And he would make suggestions. But it was zero pressure on me. Zero. The only time I felt pressure, and it really hit me, was when I was a freshman. I was sitting in my locker, and I'm looking outside. My dad's looking at me every day when I get dressed. His All-American painting was right there. And then I started feeling a little bit. I never got pressure from him, nothing but support.
Sure. With y'all being in Miami when you were little, that every time Miami scored a touchdown, a dolphin would flip in a tank.
Flipper was in the tank. Took Flipper by ambulance. But sometimes the only time you got to see him was after the game when they were putting him back in the ambulance because they weren't too good back then. As my dad said, they were begging to get a first down. The defense, they were horrible. Until they started becoming good right before he retired, and then they went to 3 straight Super Bowls after he retired. Yeah, so they had a party for him, but I can't tell you what the sign said. They hit the sign for me, but I snuck up from the neighbors and read the sign. It was Benny Nelson was the one that did it, but he was in charge of the party.
So, as an 11-year-old, tell us about your helping, quote unquote, Coach Bryant sign copies of his book, Bear, at the Crystal in Huntsville.
Right. I guess Crystal's out of Chattanooga. They'd signed him a contract to help promote his book. I was just sitting at my house, and my neighbor came up and said, "Hey, we're going to go see Coach Bryant sign books. You want to go?" And my mom said, "Yeah." So I rode with them down there, and we're sitting around when he comes off the bus. He recognized me. I'm 11 years old. He goes, "Are you Billy's boy?" I said, "Yes, sir." He grabs me with those big old hands and had me sit in a booth with him. I was excited at first, but I was on the inside of the booth. I couldn't get out. He talked to me for at least an hour, 45 minutes, almost 2 hours. My friends were over there with their eyes wide open. They couldn't believe it. After that, I was a hero, and I was amongst my friends because Coach Bryant recognized me and then sat and interviewed me for an hour and a half. There, I was a nervous wreck. I'd met him before several times. If I went to the game, I would actually go see Coach Bryant. After the game, in the locker room, come and roll a cigarette, and he'd sit there and smoke a cigarette and talk to me. It'd be just me and him.
Yeah, Jimmy Tom and I are good friends. I want to get Jimmy Tom on a podcast sometime and Mark Meadows to talk about Willie and Coach Goose Tree.
Now, I got a story about Coach Meadows, too. You need to do a story on him. Somehow, he was the most ornery person on this earth. Supposedly, he worked for General Pack. I don't know if that's true or not. That's what they would say. But I know he retired and went to work for the Greyhound bus. Did you know that, Tommy? He worked as manager of the Tuscaloosa station.
Yeah, 86 was his last year.
The story goes that somebody died on a bus. And Willie Dog went up there to check on him to make sure, being the manager and all. He goes up on the bus, comes out of the bus, and says, if you're going to go Greyhound.
Oh, God. That is so Willie. Golly.
Yeah, I remember I made him mad about something. If you complained about anything, they had baskets. Your jockstrap, your undershirt, and your socks would be in a basket. If it was raining, you had rain gear, different pants. They want you wearing the nice pants in the rain, and you had like rain shoes. And so I know Joe Namath's shoe size. Now, Joe Namath played in 66. I was there in is 85. So it was 19 years later. My shoes said Namath on them. But it's just but my ring, my 19 years. Now they throw them away after 6 weeks. I said something that was a mistake. I was just giving it back to him. The next time I pull out my jockstrap, it fit on this whole computer right here. It was just a machine. You ain't gonna do anything or anybody. And all of it was done on purpose. You made him mad. The worst stuff. It should have been years old. Where he found and kept all this stuff. It was just a lot of fun to be around during that time with all those old guys that I've looked up to all my life and see how everything really worked. From the outside, it's a lot different from the inside. No question.
Let's go back to when you signed with Alabama. Was there any doubt as to whether you'd go to the University of Alabama?
I got a lot of attention from different places. Every night there'd be somebody on the phone. Montecani, my dad's roommate for 8 years in the NFL at Boston and at Miami. And so he was calling me, wanting to go to Notre Dame and different things. And my phone rang off the hook at night. And then it got where I didn't want to talk on the phone anymore. I was the top recruit in the state. I saw something you sent me. It said Bo Jackson was 6th. I'm still waiting on my Nike money. I run out my mailbox every day looking for my Nike money. It's not there. So that shows you what rankings are really about. I'll never forget, we're in that little seat again after supper. Out of the blue, my dad changes everything about what he usually looks like. Usually he's relaxed, and all of a sudden he gets real serious. He asked me a hypothetical question. He said, if Coach Bryant calls you tomorrow and asks you to commit, would you commit? And I'm kind of looking, and all of a sudden I look at him, he's trying to sell me. My dad's selling me now to commit because what's obvious is he's told Coach Bryant I'm going to commit, and now he's worried that I won't. I didn't want to go anywhere else, and I was tired already. I took one unofficial visit to Auburn with Coach Dye to see Coach Dye. Coach Dye was good friends with my dad. And Uncle Sid called me and says, I just want you to take a visit, show him some respect. I took my unofficial visit, had a great time. And then I never took another. Coach Bryant called me several weeks later, committed to Alabama the first hour I was eligible. After my last exam of my junior year, I didn't take any business anywhere. I knew where I wanted to go. I didn't want to waste their time, and I didn't want to waste my time. I enjoyed my senior year of high school with all my friends, had a great time, went to some of the games, took an official visit to Alabama, had a great time. I was just ready to go when I got there.
Wes, listening to you talk, I think one of the things I'm so impressed by is you're talking about your dad. There's so many of us that look up to him. We followed your career, but the highest compliment you can say is he was just your dad. And what are some of the things that stick with you today that are a part of who you are because of who your dad was to you?
I think it's just don't take yourself too serious. Work hard, work smart, be nice to everybody. People like that, you expect them to be treated back. Just have fun. Too. He looked like somebody feeding his coffee every morning when he walked around. He had that look of just, he was pissed off. But really he was. We used to make fun of him. And my mom used to always say, smile, Billy. He would never smile. But he was always fun. And he wasn't really ever in a bad mood. He just had resting beef.
I was going to say, there's like bad resting face. There are just some folks that are blessed with it. And some of the funniest people I think I've ever been around are people that's who they are.
I have all this written down in the book somewhere. And he would say, that made no sense whatsoever. I'd write them down. And we've taught the grandkids some of this. And he was around a lot of our kids. But now I have 11 grandchildren. And so we're teaching them the Billyisms is what we call them.
It's awesome.
A lot of them can't say on the air. He was just a lot of fun to be around. He knew everybody. He was everywhere he went. He knew everybody there, where they would know him. He was brought up in the outskirts of Tuscaloosa. Mm-hmm. His mama had 9 brothers and sisters, and his dad had 9 brothers and sisters. So there were 10 on each side.
Man.
So the running joke, and it still happens to me today, is I go to Tuscaloosa, and somebody will come up to me and say, hey, you don't know me, but I'm your cousin.
Yeah.
That happens all the time. We just have this huge family. Fun, really, and it's very enjoyable. But everything that he taught us was just to be nice to people.
Yeah.
Because he was always nice to everyone.
And that says something because he honestly didn't have to be. He could have considered himself to be a big deal, and yet he didn't carry himself that way.
No, he wasn't like that at all. He should go talk to kings or paupers. It didn't matter to him. I saw him going to a bar one day, and we thought he wouldn't come out alive. He was somewhere in Inslee, and we're like, Dad, please don't go in there. And he went in there, and comes out, and he's hugging him, carrying the beer back with him. We're just looking at our head and just shaking our head. He should go in and get along with anybody, anywhere. It didn't matter. He just had this aura about him. He had size 22-inch calves when he played for the Dolphins. You don't mess with anybody with size 22-inch calf. You look at his legs, you're like, oh. The Kurt Jarvis is the same way. He had to have his pants specially made.
Wow.
In college. I don't know what he does now. I got to get Kurt Jarvis short. I'll tell later.
Hey, let me ask you this. We talked about your family, talked about the Neighbors family, but there was another legacy that born into and grew up into, and that's the Alabama family. What are those early experiences around your dad? How did that shape what you think about Alabama and how you understand the folks that are
so
around the park?
They had reunions every year. Like the 61, 64, 65 team had reunions together every year for years. I grew up with all their kids. Me and Pat Trammell Jr., we took him fishing with us, and he calls me still, and we go places together. It was just a tight family. And you assume that's the way it was everywhere. But it's not like that. We have foundations to help take care of our club members that get hurt or get MS or whatever. They call us the Red Mafia because we all stick together. If somebody calls me and asks me for a favor, it doesn't matter when they play. A lot of times I just go into the hints and try to help them.
Yeah.
Now, you can only help them so much depending on what's going on. But I'm going to make the phone calls I need to make to help them, no matter what. I don't care if they play with my sons or my brother or whoever, or didn't play with any of us. It doesn't matter. And that's not the way it is everywhere. I know that.
And that all goes back to Coach Bryant, doesn't it? That was the way he took care of his players and saw after the program. And guys just grew up thinking that's the way you do.
All right, Pat Jr.'s dad got sick. He started the foundation to help players. And it broke off. There's 2 foundations now. I'm actually president of one of them. The other one, Paul Jr. handled. My daughter went to Alabama for free. Coach Bryant paid for it. I need players that played for him, kids that went to Alabama went for free. He paid. I don't know how you explain that. I went to the bank. Anna Lake, my youngest daughter, she had to go to Alabama, which is all G's. Paul Jr. did an unbelievable job. And but he's not a public speaker. He has speaking impediment. He got up there and gave me chills the whole thing. Watching him do that. And if that doesn't, paying for your player, daughters, or sons, that's incredible. And you think about that, and I've heard Coach Saban talking about wanting to do something similar, and I don't know where they got on it, but how do you get better at that? Just amazing. That place is special. It's unbelievable what they've been able to do. And the whole country recognizes it now. And how can you not? And a lot of people jealous of it. I get it. Did y'all get y'all's mail today? I got a property tax thing from Georgia, for Athens, Georgia. We're going to, did y'all know that?
The deed was delivered today.
Yeah. Steve Moulton, who does all the work for my show, he's amazing. He's a Georgia man. And it's been a great time because they beat us. They're 1-11 since we've been partners. And
Yeah. Roger Schultz
hadn't got hurt, we'd be 12-0.
That's right.
Schultz said that about Knoxville.
That's what I was.
Forever.
I'm copying my buddy.
Yeah, there's a great joke about a dog that was a Tennessee fan. And that dog got to be about 16 years old before we had to recycle that joke. So let's hope we get to continue that for a while. In your redshirt year in '82, talk a little bit about your role on the team that season. Obviously, that was a season that started off incredibly well.
We were preseason number 1.
Yeah.
Incredible football team. Our defense, everybody played the NFL or USFL. Mike Pitts, unbelievable player. Tommy Wilcox doesn't get the credit he's deserved. Mm-hmm. He could have played quarterback or defensive back, which he ended up playing defensive back. Jeremiah Castile, unbelievable leader. Eddie Lowe, Woodrow Lowe's little brother, played like a huge. Robbie Jones, who nobody talks about, he played 10 years for the Giant. Great player. I go on and on. Bunch of great players. Drop a bunch of touchdown passes against Tennessee. Upset up there. After that, it just unwound a little bit. LSU had a great team that we had dominated the year before that we couldn't block. They whipped us. Tennessee, that game we could have won that game. The LSU game, we had no prayer. We couldn't even get a first down. They whipped us. And I think looking back now, I know Coach Bryant was thinking, hey, we're going to have to do a pro with the rules changing and everything. He knew that a pro style offense was coming. And as he told us in the meeting, he was too old to change. But when I went there, I was a kid, I thought Coach Bryant was going to coach forever and never die. This is what I really thought.
When did you start to get an inkling that he was going to retire?
My dad hinted at it, but he was probably talking to him the night before he did it. I'm 18 years old in college. I'm worried about getting my finals alley pass and had high hopes of playing as a freshman. I got hurt. I was supposed to dress the first game. And we got our jerseys in the spring. Mine had my name on the back of it. I was supposed to play in the first game. I was the second string linebacker behind Robbie Jones before I got hurt. Now, I was lost as a besting boy. The best thing ever happened to me getting redshirted. I don't know if I'd been any count at all. Maybe I'd have grown up before the end of the season, but I was lost. But things happen for a reason. Going back to that, I knew right before he was coming in to tell us to retire, my dad had called me and said, Coach Bryant's retired. I'm an Alabama guy. I don't care who the coach is. I'm supporting Alabama. I get a lot of this. Why just his youngest son go play for LSU? It's because LSU warned him Alabama did. When he started playing, all the coaches would ask Wesley, why is Carter not here? I mean, it's just, he grew up an Alabama fan.
Yeah.
I knew Carter was going to play wherever he went. He's just, the guy is undersized, but he has a heart like a lion. I watched him play in high school, and he was unbelievable. The guy that I talked to Coach Saban, and said that he wanted a linebacker at 6'3" that can knock the ball away when they try to throw it over his head when they're running Tampa 2. And the guy that got that year was Mosley, who just retired just now.
Yeah.
It was all pro. So I knew what he wanted. Connor was a linebacker at the time. Mm-hmm. They moved him a fullback. He got the co-MVP for the team in offense his senior year and started in 32 games. He was like in the low 30s as a walk-on at a place. I think it helped him different strokes for different folks. And it was a great experience for me going over there and seeing how the other half lives a little bit. I'd put on my LSU shirt, I go there, and they'd just be dogging Alabama, just dogging them. And I wouldn't say a word. I never told them that I'm pulling for Alabama today. I was the only one pulling for LSU and Alabama ever at the same time. It was fun, but it was different, no doubt. I wanted Connor to go to Alabama. He went where it was best for him. And walking on Alabama was a tough road to hoe versus LSU. They told me as soon as one came available, he'd get it. He did. He was a walk-on, but not really a walk-on. They were going to, and Coach Chavis had Coach Chavis coached here at A&M with Coach Fuller and who's the godfather of football, Tommy, at Clemson?
Woody McCorvey.
Woody McCorvey.
Yeah.
Woody was the offensive coordinator and Chief was the defensive coordinator. So he knew my dad, and he had watched Connor's tape. They were out of scholarships, but they promised him that. But it is different down there. Their one thing is to beat Alabama. They pull for two teams every week. I was there this past weekend. I went to Louisiana Lafayette. I was watching the game on my phone, Alabama game, to see my grandchildren watch Connor. He's the 10th straight coach of Louisiana Lafayette. And this guy says, "How's Alabama doing?" I said, "They're winning." He goes, "Damn it." I'm just in the stands. Lafayette guy. Makes it fun, though, to me. I enjoy meeting different people.
Yeah.
There is nothing but hate in Louisiana for the Crimson Tide.
And we love it. That's
100%.
exactly the way we want it.
Exactly 100%. Coach, when we went to Clemson and got beat on, to me, it's the best team we've ever had. He got beat in the last play of the game. Connor was the strength coach at Alabama. And Wesley was the head defensive analyst in that game. So Connor coached at Alabama for a year. And then went with Kiffin to FAU. And then went from FAU back to LSU in 2019. That was the third national championship Connor had been to. And he lost the first two. One at LSU when Alabama beat him. One at Clemson beat us. And then he finally got one in 2019 before he went to Lafayette. So everybody, Tommy, has a national championship ring but me.
They don't remind you of that, do they?
Connor has one. Wesley had 5 or 6. My brother had one. My dad had one. And Sidney didn't have one either. Sidney died in 1981. So I think it was 1981. It's been a minute. I'm the only one that doesn't have a national championship ring.
Well, so when we go back and think about the transition from Coach Bryant to Coach Perkins, and especially the Liberty Bowl, let's talk about that. You were around and in the locker room and a part of that moment. What was it like for the team going into the Liberty Bowl in '82 and winning one for the Bear?
Me and Hoss Johnson, my buddy from high school, we practiced and we were supposed to go to the game. We were the only ones. They sent everybody else home, and we were practicing every day. And we were ready to go. And the day before we left, they came in and said, "Coach Bryant says, if you don't have eligibility, you're not traveling." So they sent me and Hoss up home, which we were disappointed, very disappointed. Attitude was very focused. Everybody felt like they let Coach Bryant down this year. Not him, not the way he reacted, but you could tell. And they were working very hard. We all were, to get ready for Illinois team. It was very good. They had a very good quarterback.
Yeah, that was an incredible team that year.
Right.
What about just in general? You were there for the entire season. You spent time around Coach Bryant as a kid, but what did you learn from him as a player?
Oh, the man had an aura that's hard to explain. It gives me chills this day. We had a team meeting every day with Coach Bryant. we go into it was the auditorium of all the players.
Mm-hmm.
So and you could feel him coming down the hall. And when he came, you could feel the pressure of the room change. The coaches looked like they're going to shit upon themselves. Well, I don't know if I did it on the podcast or not, but I just did. So they were Malmore. If you touched Malmore, he stroked out. I'm telling you. You could tell by their faces how close he was before he came in. Right? So he comes in, and you hear the cheers. Everybody's sitting up straight. And just the air sucks out of the room, and there's total silence. It was like that every day. Sometimes he'd come in, read a poem, that poem that he made famous. Sometimes he'd tell us a story. He's it for somebody. You pay it back when you're in school. That way you'd have credit. When you graduated, I had 0 credit. Get drafted, get all this money, and I can't get a damn credit card. I think I was, what an idiot. Who don't listen to Coach Bryant? You're looking at me right here. I'm an idiot. And everything he ever told us was mostly about life. I'll never forget, after we got beat by Tennessee, he was in there and he was just raising hell. I was scared to death already. He's talking about we're not doing the little things. He pivoted and pointed right at me. There's 130, 150 people in the room. He says, like your daddy used to. He was like that movie where it just zeroes in on you. I thought I'd been struck by lightning. I didn't know what to do. So he was and that was every day. We had a team meeting with him every day. He talked about football, what we needed. Sometimes he talked about life. Sometimes he'd just read a poem. But it was something every day. I was at the mall one time. It was like something out of a movie. I was walking away from the door. And all of a sudden, it was like everybody turned, so I turned. And there he was coming in with Billy. Look, he's going around Christmas. I guess he's going to Bryant something. I don't know. And he walked in, and it was just like something out of a movie because you could feel his presence. And I don't know if it's just his reaction of everybody, the quiet would happen. He just had this aura about him, and it's hard to explain, but he did. And a lot of people will tell you that were around. Coaches were definitely scared to death of him. Scared.
Wes, I worked with Dude Hennessy for years in the Todd Pride office, and of course, Mal was my athletic director for a long time. And even when his name was mentioned, their whole personality changed. Unbelievable.
They say Mal told so many stories, and of course, Dude, one of the best stories, I don't know if y'all have heard this, that Dude was in the box, and Mal was coaching defense at the time. They're playing Vanderbilt, and Vanderbilt's giving them hell on offense. Coach Bryant keep trying to ask Mal what the hell's going on and reaching for the headsets, and Mal's trying to get them away, and Dude's telling him, don't let them have them headsets. Don't let them have them headsets. So anyway, he ends up grabbing it from him, he puts it on, and then Coach Bryant's going, hello, and throws them, and Mal puts them back on. When Coach Bryant asks what's going on, we got a bad connection. He said, Mal said, don't ever give him those things again. Dynasty told so many great stories. He was my favorite person to be around out of everybody, especially when you start telling Mal stories. And Mal will be over there in his chair and shifting around. I'll get all nervous and scared what he might say. They were fun to be around because they went on the circuit to help raise money. They were coming by our office once or twice a week as they were meeting with other people.
That
Mal
was the
Moore,
start.
in my opinion, doesn't get enough credit because he saved the university financially when it was way behind. And he raised $200 million while they were on probation and built this. And you told me you were there.
Yeah.
You knew what all he did. And then to get Coach Saban to come, it changed the total. We were heading in a bad situation, and he straightened it out and left a legacy here that will never be repeated, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Wes, based on your conversations with your dad, do you think Coach Bryant's coaching methods changed from the time he played in the late 50s and early 60s to the time you played for him in 1982?
Oh, yeah, 100%. First of all, I think he was more of a hands-on coach when he was younger. He wasn't like he went hands-on. We had a meeting every day. But he wasn't on the field as much. When he came out of the tower, it was bad news. I learned that lesson hard. My dad said, well, do not go anywhere near him. If he comes out of that tower, you need to go as far as you can. Stay away from him. I made the first time he came out of the tower, I made that mistake and ended up in a drill. He wasn't after me. He was after Lenny Patrick. He picked Lenny Patrick up off the ground. His feet were dangling. Coach Bryant was a big, strong man. Anyway, next thing I knew, I was in a drill and I was having to tackle Lenny, which wasn't easy. We were all the rest of us that kept having to tackle Lenny that were getting the brunt of it. Lenny kicked him off. So he lived in the door for a while. Anyway, in the Haiti Hall, he got exiled. So, yeah, he still had that fire, is my point. Yeah. But he wasn't like, my dad said there were 105 of them on scholarship. My dad was on a track scholarship, and he would go put the shot. That's the Bear Bryant rule. You have to play football.
Right.
He signed 105 people. They used to make fun of one guy. He was on a basketball scholarship, 6 foot tall. My dad would put the shot on home games. He'd still have his spring pants off. He'd put the shot twice. They take the golf cart and take him back to practice. But of those 105 people, there were only 8 left when they graduated. 8. My dad said if you dropped a pass in practice, he'd kick you off the team.
Wow.
A touchdown pass.
Well, Wes, walk us through that transition in early 1983 between Coach Bryant and Coach Perkins. Tough.
It didn't go like it should have. I think it'd been so much better if Coach Bryant hadn't died. Coach Bryant's death changed everything. All the support that he could have given for the fans, raising the money, the decision. If he was there, took down the tower, why would you do that? That was bad advice, whoever said that, right? I think Coach Bryant was there. They took down the tower. He says, I told him to take it down the tower. He would have handled it. What makes Alabama so great, in my opinion, is the actual love everybody has for the university. And they're pulled all in the same direction. Yeah. And now, my opinion, having been a part of the press, I was upset after the first game because I didn't think it wasn't an Alabama effort. When they played that next game, did you hear the crowd and how they reacted? In the next game, Alabama fans are, for the most part, are calling buyout, this or that. It's the press that's pumping that. And they're trying to pull us apart. That's my opinion. But the transition was, I think, by Coach Bryant dying, hurt Alabama.
Yes. When you were a linebacker during your redshirt year in '82, yeah. When did you transition to become a center?
Okay, so
being a 4-year starter.
Yeah, I played center in high school. I played both ways. I wanted to play linebacker. I was the fattest linebacker in captivity. That's what they used to call me.
They called you a widebacker or something.
They called me a nosebacker. I could run. I was fast. I didn't look like a linebacker. I looked like a center. So Coach Perkins called me in my office, and I was the player of the year at center. Alabama. I was Mr. Football. I played both ways. He said, I think you'll play as linebacker, but I think you can start at center. So I said, hell, I'll play wide receiver if you think I'll start. If you believe that, you're the head coach. What am I to say? So I said, yeah, I'll believe the center. So I would have been a first-string linebacker. Granted, they signed some Cornelius and Dwayne Davis, some really good players at linebacker. And we had some decent players there as well. I would have been one of the top 2 of people there at the time. But he wanted me to move to the center. I moved to the center. I was 6th-string center the first day of practice. I'd have been the first string, even the first day of practice, at linebacker. And I'm like, what have I done? I was on 6th string, and I was last. Coach Tom, awesome man, awesome pro football player, played at Mississippi State, and he taught us a lot. But I had a gift that I hadn't played offensive lineman the year before, because wishbone blocking and run blocking Even run blocking is different. Pass protection is a whole different animal. Nothing they were taught is the right opposite of what you did. And I'd been taught by my dad. He played 8 years in the NFL. It was all pro, 3 of them, how to pass block. And then Tom was there, and thank God he was there because he would have been ugly. He was all pro as well, taught us how to pass block. But I was helping some of the guys too because I didn't have to unlearn all that stuff. And their stance, everything. Usually you work on your stance in the spring for 10 minutes. We work on it every day for 3 weeks. And so my first scrimmage, I got 9 plays. I graded 8 out of 9. And I got a little note from Coach Goo who's great scrimmage. This is your time. I went from 6th string to 2nd string. Then I was 2nd string and got lucky again because the first offense, our top 10 or 8 offensive linemen, even then, were really good. Mike Adcock, to me, we called him Pops. He actually looks younger now than he did then. I still see him. He's the guy who went to Johnson High School from us. And he helped me a lot. Anyway, we go through the scrimmage. First string is struggling. We've scored a couple of times. They haven't scored at all in the scrimmage. So we're near the end. And he calls first team, and he says at center, he wanted me and had some other substitutions. I don't remember who they were. When he said center, I was wide-eyed. So I'm going in with the first group. Anyway, we drove down and scored twice. I was on the bench, and I was sitting next to Mike Adcock, who I've looked up to. He's a 3-year starter, going to be a senior. And he says, you're the best center I've ever played next to. Mm-hmm. After the first 2 scrimmages, and after that, you could not. I was on cloud 30. I was just doing whatever he said. I'm serious. And the rest of the time, I started out on colors. I learned. He made all the calls my freshman year, took all that off of me. And after that, it was so easy. He did so much to help. A lot of people did. Coach Good, Coach Bowler, Coach Henshaw. They all did something that I took from my father, for that matter. They made it so easy for me, especially as a freshman. Mike made all the calls, and it made it easier for me, no doubt. Before the first game, we're playing Georgia Tech. I hadn't been thought about it. You're going against these guys every day, and you're going against some of the greatest. All these guys are playing in the NFL. You're going through them every day. And so all of a sudden, you get ready for the first game. And I'm like, hell, I started getting a little nervous. So my mom called me and said, hey, you want your dad to come down? Meaning that your dad wants to come down. And I said, yes, sir. But he comes down, and I was nervous, but I wasn't real nervous. Dad is nervous I've ever seen him in my life, ever. He can't even eat. We go to the landing or whatever, and he orders 3 martinis. I'm eating, he has a martini on his plate, and he can't even talk. He's so nervous. And after that, I was nervous as hell. He's scared to death. So, first play of the Georgia Tech, call right up the middle. Fire out. The guy jumps around. He makes a tackle in the backfield. I know my dad took me like this. So I get back in the huddle, and Walker Lewis calls the same play. And this time, the guy tried to run around me, but I waited. Hit him right in the mouth, put him on his back. We run to the 2. And after that, it was easy.
Wes, I remember that game as being extremely hot that day.
1,000 people passed out.
Yeah, it was a record pass out for the EMTs there at Legion Field. That was a crazy year. 8-4 final, but you had the incredibly hot temperatures at Georgia Tech game. You had the controversial ending versus Penn State in State
They
College.
weren't controversial. They stole that game.
They did. And instant replay today would have reversed that call. Preston Gothard would have been inbounds on
That's Tommy. There were a bunch of phantom penalties in the game. It was awful.
Yeah, and Mike Gooman, who Wingo and Krause and Legg and company stopped for the Sugar Bowl a few years earlier, it was his dad that was the referee for that game. Although he didn't make that call.
I was just going to say, we put the final play up on Facebook not long ago. Folks are still hot about it. That's gotten more commentary than anything we've put on Facebook in this year.
They ran a reverse on 4th down, And there were 3 clips on the reverse in the back. Joe Carter ran a touchdown back, a kickoff back. And when he was about at the 50, the guy, Goodman, throws the flag. He calls clipping. The whole game, they tried to strike Goodman. I remember I was throwing up outside the locker room. I had the stomach fire. And I was throwing up. Comes Perkins and Goosetree. First of all, they'd wet down the field. Let the field grow taller. They wetted it down and were going to buy cleats. And then they were trying to strike Goodman because somebody had told them he was going to be one of the officials. But we actually won a game because of that later, because they made SEC officials for the rest of the time. SEC officials were, and when we won that with a blocked field goal, anybody would have called a touchdown on that. But it was Pete. I forget, he was friends with my dad. We played at Vanderbilt. It was the umpire, all these games. And I used to take him, he would do our spring games. I take him to the bar and he would do our games during the year. Coach Dye struck him after the first year because he called holding on the Auburn nose guard twice. I don't remember his name. He was from Huntsville. Oh, God. Pete. So
That's amazing.
he's the one that marked the ball down at the 1. But if that had been a Penn State official, he'd been jumping up and down doing that. That game was awful.
Yeah.
There were only 2 games I think that were just awfully. That game and LSU my senior year, when we had 5 holding penalties, we had 5 touchdowns called back in that game and lost by 2 points or something like that. It was awful. Johnson got called for holding, and all he was doing is holding the 2 down at the 20. He was like this on the 2, and they called holding as we were running in the end zone.
Another crazy game that year was the Boston College trip, where it was cold, rainy. It was about 32 degrees at kickoff with about a 20, 25 mile an hour wind, sleet, rain, cold, brutal. We go into the locker room leading comfortably. The power goes out in the locker room. And if it had not come back, we would have won the game by a declaration from the officials. But the power came back and Doug Flutie led Boston College to a victory.
Yeah, that was full up there. Awful.
Yeah. And then you had the tornado game in the Iron Bowl, and then the SMU game in the Sun Bowl, which you're talking about a weather change.
Oh, yeah.
We were out there.
El Paso, Texas.
Well, it was in the 60s the day before, and we woke up at the team hotel. I was with the alumni office at the time and was on that trip. The fountain out front was frozen.
Yeah. It was really cold. When it started raining in the fourth quarter of the Auburn game, there was this much water. I had to hold the ball in the air to snap.
Unreal.
First of all, they came back and they should have called the Boston College game.
Yeah.
We had no power. The lights weren't even on when we were playing. It was night.
Yeah.
That game, they should have stopped, and they would stop today. Because what happened, basically, Bo Jackson ran, the wind changed completely. Nobody was going to score in that condition. You couldn't even snap the ball.
Mm-hmm.
There was a half a foot of water on the ground, and we were standing in the puddle. I couldn't snap the ball. I was holding it up in the air and snap. It's just nuts. It was a crazy year, though, 100%.
Yeah.
Hey, y'all, thanks again for joining us for this first in our installment of interviewing Wes Neighbors. It was great to spend time with him today. He's funny. He's articulate. He did a great job of sharing with us his story and a big part of the history of Alabama football. We appreciate the time that you've spent with us. We hope you'll share the show with somebody else. Send them our way and tell them we're working hard to preserve the history of the Alabama Crimson Tide. And don't forget to reach out to Title Towel. That's whitwillsports.com. You can find your Title Towel there. If you use the code TWO, you'll be able to get a discount on that. And we're really thankful to them for providing that opportunity for our viewers and listeners. And then also, we invite you to head over to Yay Alabama. That's yay-alabama.com, the NIL collective of the Crimson Tide. They're doing a ton to expose our community to athletes and athletes to our community, to create opportunities for us to get to know the people on the field, the men and women that make up the Crimson Tide, and for us to provide incentives for them during the NIL era. And so if you'll head over to yay-alabama.com, you can find the new opportunities, the new levels of membership there, and we'd invite you to join, become a part of what's happening at Yay, Alabama. So thanks again for my co-host, Tommy Ford. I'm Rick Morton. We hope you'll join us again next week here on the Crimson Chronicles Podcast.